We're live with Dale Bliss, and I'm site expert for Autzen Zoo, the Fighting Ducks. So you cover, Dale, you cover everything Oregon, every sport of Oregon. We're talking basketball, women's, everything, track and field.
This time of the year, football drives the bus, so I'm pretty much in that seat every day, all the time. But around the year, I love covering Oregon softball. That was a great story this year. Oregon baseball, Oregon basketball. Both the basketball teams look like they're going to be great. They made some really terrific portal acquisitions, but right now it's all football.
Yeah, because I live in New York, so I've seen Ionescu play. I love her. She's awesome.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So
I I totally agree, JD. She's a lot of fun. I love her game. I love the way she approaches the game. You know, her energy, her intensity, her fundamentals. She's a great player to watch. It's too bad that the Liberty ran into such a buzzsaw with injuries this year. I think they had a real chance to defend, but my goodness, Brianna Stewart missed a bunch of games,
and John Cole
and
Jones. Yeah, John Cole
yeah,
Jones.
it was
Yeah.
just one thing after another. They never really had a chance to compete equal to their talent. I think they'll bounce back next year and be in the hunt.
But so I talked about this yesterday. A lot of people don't want to talk about WNBA, but I thought Sandy Brondello getting fired a year after winning a championship, and I know they do that in Europe and everything, but I was like, wow, that was pretty cutthroat. I thought.
That seems brutal to me because there ought to be a grace period when you win a championship,
Right.
particularly because this year, JD, they had so much adversity. How can you pin that on the coach and say she's not doing the job? The players seem to like her. They play hard for her. They just
Yeah.
weren't healthy.
That's what they do over in Europe with soccer. You win a championship, you sort of slow the next year, you're gone. And I was like, I wish they would do that with the Yankees with Aaron Boone, but that's a story for another show. So I didn't want to. I was like, oh my god.
It reminds me of,
Yeah.
excuse me, Jake. Do you remember Ball Four?
Yes.
Jim Bouton?
Yes, I do.
Yep. All right. Well, he wrote a sequel to that book. I forget the title. I think this title of the sequel was "I'm Glad You Didn't Take It Personally." And one of the things he said that in Africa at that time, if the soccer team went bad, they fired the witch doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I think American teams need to fire the witch doctor
Yes.
instead of blaming it all on the coach.
Yes, I agree. 100%. Yeah. 100% on that front. Now, so you've been writing. So what you're doing this in retirement. Dale, what did you do before you were covering? Have you always covered sports? I guess you're a grandfather of four. Your hobbies are dark chocolate, Ducks football. I looked it up. Paulo Coelho. That's an author, correct? And golf.
Yes, he's the author of The Alchemist. Really terrific.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, you really did your homework. You know more about me than some of my relatives.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what yeah, you have 4 grandkids, 3 to 17. So and dark chocolate. That's okay. And you have a blog, The Duck Stops Here. So
that's where I started, JD.
Oh, okay.
I've always loved to write, and I wanted to write. So I started out by writing this blog, and I did that for a couple of years. And AJ Jacobson at Rivals offered me a job, to write as a regular contributor at the Rivals Ducks site, which has now been absorbed into On3 Sports. But that got me started. Then I worked for Talkin Sports for a while and started with fan-sided and Autzen Zoo last March, and it's been great. One of the things I love about this is as we were talking about, I get to write all sports. I'm not limited to just the football team.
Right. Now, what did you do in your previous life? That's what so you said you retired. What was the previous?
That was the original question, wasn't it? I skipped.
It's all right.
Right
no,
over
listen. It's fantastic. Yeah.
All right. Well, I was I worked in a bakery. I worked for. Have you ever heard of Dave's Killer Bread?
Yes, I have heard of Dave's Killer Bread.
All right. Well, it's an Oregon brand, and I worked at the bakery for 7 years, just on the line, help making really great tasting organic bread, and I loved that job. Great people, but I was getting a little older, and I wanted to make the writing a full time gig, and I got the opportunity to do that, and makes a nice supplemental income, and I just love it. I get up every morning around 4 a.m. and start writing. I'm actually working harder now writing than I ever did working in the bakery.
But they say if it's not a job, if you love what you do, it's not a job. So I get you're waking up at 4 a.m. to do it. So right.
Yeah,
That's
I totally agree with that sentiment, and I found that to be true when you're pursuing a passion. When you get the opportunity to write and tell stories, it's it doesn't feel like work. And I'm really blessed. My wife is incredibly supportive and encouraging. She's my best editor, my best critic, and extremely positive and understanding about the kind of drastic decision I made to go in this direction.
no, but it's a great direction to go into because there was something interesting you posted. The AP poll came out, and I hadn't looked at it, and I was like, oh, Dale's coming on today. I got to have it. So Haley M. Sawyer, who writes for you, a USC beat writer, moved Florida up 2 spots after losing to South Florida, but didn't put South Florida in the poll. And you said, well, instead of beat writers and coaches who are focused on their teams, you should have 50 to 75 national recognized figures, except Paul Feinbaum, who I can't stand because he didn't remember that Rutgers in the Big Ten started college football. But that's a story for another day. And I agree with you. It's ridiculous. You guys went down 2 spots. I love what you said. We went to our reserves. We beat Northwestern by 20. We played reserves in the second half, and we dropped 2 spots on the road. How does that happen? You know?
He's crazy, and JD, I just feel like we are really blessed as college football fans to have a group of incredible guys, and I'll just name a few of them. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but I mean, Josh Pate, Joel Klatt, the guys from the Cover Three podcast. These guys study college football and watch film and watch games and are absorbed in the sport, you know, 24/7, 365. They're
Right.
passionate, they're knowledgeable, they don't have a regional bias. Beat writers really don't have time to study all of college football, to know what's on game days. They're working on their team 16 hours a day. They're covering warm-ups, and they're writing the press conference story. It's a full-time job just to cover this one team. There's like I'm sure Hallie's a great reporter and does a good job, but they're put in this position where they have to turn in a ballot, and there's no way they've really studied these teams. It's no more than a line score or a box score or a couple of highlights, if that. And
Right.
once in a while, there's just outrageous misses, like
Right.
the thing with
I mean,
Central
with a
Florida.
Southern South Florida, yeah. That and I watched the end of that game, and then they got blown out by Miami, but they beat they beat Boise State, then they beat Florida. Billy Napier's on the way out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so let me ask you a question: Do you have season tickets for Oregon football, or do you just watch on TV? How does it work? How do you do that? How far are
I
you away
don't.
from Eugene? Actually, how far are you away from Eugene?
It's about a 2-hour drive, an
Okay.
hour and 45 minutes if my wife drives. And, I love seeing the games live. It's a lot of fun to do that. I could probably get press passes if I really pursued it, but to cover the team and write the stories, it's a lot easier to be at home where I have all my devices, all my resources, and I don't have to spend 45 minutes getting out of the parking
Right.
lot. I don't have to hook up and pack everything. So I think I can do a more thorough job taking in the game the way most fans take in the game, and that's on television.
Okay, so I love what you posted today. So Scott Reed from Duck Sports Central said, "Time for talking done. Each win in regular season matters. None of them are the finish line." I thought that was awesome. I just, I just thought that was great. And yes, Kev, my Kev and Josh, my friend from TCA, Kev noticed I'm wearing it on. I just happened to put it on. I was like, "Oh, Dale will love this. I'm wearing the Oregon colors." Yeah,
Yeah,
Kev, that was a good
very
pickup.
much so. And that the headband thing, that's vintage. I remember Slick Watts with the old
Yes,
Sonics.
yes, Slick Watts. Yes, yes. And who was it? Downtown Freddie Brown, right? Was that it? It was downtown. I
Oh
think that's
yeah.
who. Jack Sikma. Yeah, I'm old. That's my time. Yes, yes, yeah. It was for. Oh, so yeah. So I really want to talk about the game. You about the team. I mean, last year, Dylan Gabriel had a great regular season. You won that outright. You won the Big Ten. Then he got blown out by we don't. So my girlfriend went to Michigan, so we call Ohio State the dump. So we called the dump beat you guys and ended up winning the chip, which they still didn't beat Michigan. So what do you think of the coach? Do you think Dan Lanning's doing a good job? It sounds like recruiting and everything. Are you happy with the direction the program is going in?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Oregon fans are too. I mean, Dan Lanning is dynamic. He's relentless. He has a vision. He's the son of two teachers. And you can really see in the highlights from his meetings and interactions with the team in the locker room, he is at heart a teacher. And the the bells and whistles of the Oregon program, the uniforms and facilities get all the attention, but he is very much a relationship guy.
Okay.
And he's thorough. And absolutely, he's building a program, like Scott said, that's built to last. That this game tomorrow, which will be a tough game, Penn State's a great team, but this game tomorrow is not the finish line. It's not the destination. This season is not the destination. This is a program built to last, built on very sound fundamentals. And Lanning is as intelligent and driven as any coach in the country.
Okay, that it's interesting you said that. Now you got that Makai Hughes Jr. that Tulane transfer, 70 yards rushing. What? Why aren't they using him? I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's really weird. They've had Makai Hughes under wraps a lot. I mean, this is a guy who rushed for something like 2,779 yards in 2 years at Tulane, had 1,982 yards after contact. But at Oregon, he's been a bit player. And I think it's a testimony to two things. One, uh, in fall camp, real competition, and they just have a lot of talent in that running back room. Even without him, their rushing attack is averaging about 6.7 yards a carry. Jaden Lamar, De'Air Hill, they're doing a terrific job. They're explosive. Noah Whittington, they get him back for this game against Penn State. So Hughes's role may increase over time, but the simple explanation that these other guys just beat him out. They were more familiar with the system, more comfortable with the playbook, and Hughes has been used. I wonder if part of it, JD, is a little bit of a load management thing.
Okay.
Lanning had a very cohesive plan about using and developing the roster and keeping guys healthy. In those early games against the tomato can opposition, um,
That's yeah.
they played 32 guys on defense. They used
Wow.
10 different ball carriers and 12 different receivers. I mean, it was they really used the whole roster because he has a long-term plan. I mean, he's thinking about a potential 16 game season. And as a result, they haven't had the load on one guy. They're not wearing anybody out. They're using all of their weapons and developing all of their people and developing tremendous depth, and using everybody like that creates a lot of energy in practice because everybody's involved, right? They're
Right.
not
Right.
just scrubs
Standing
scout
around.
team.
Right.
Exactly. They're playing games. They're getting to contribute. They have reserve running back Jordan Davison. He's 6 foot, 235 pounds, just a
Wow.
bruiser, and he's had 6 rushing touchdowns off the bench. Just because they use him a lot at the goal line, and he's got great power and a terrific blocker, and so this really is a team, and they have a design, and everybody's involved, and that makes it really fun to watch.
So the question I have, the thing that just popped in my head, you go from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel. How does Dante, right, Dante Moore? How does he? He has to be so different than the other two guys, right? I mean, or is he kind of a mix of the two guys? Because he's not really rushing. I saw his rushing numbers, so he's not like a running quarterback. He's only run for 87 yards on 14 carries. So he's more of a pocket passer, right? Is that he came from UCLA, hyped recruit?
Yep, 5-star out of Martin Luther King High School in Detroit, Michigan. He's about six
Wow.
foot three, 208 pounds. Um, he made a very mature decision. Things didn't go well at UCLA. Chip Kelly left after 1 year. He was thrown into the fire as a true freshman and had some real growing pains. Threw 11 touchdowns with 9 interceptions, and three of those interceptions were returned from pick sixes. So he really struggled. He really suffered as a true freshman quarterback on an undermanned team. That UCLA team, he got sacked 25 times in one season. So he made a very mature decision to come to Oregon, sit for a year behind Dylan Gabriel, and learn. Just kind of get a reset as a football player. JD, he's got tremendous talent. He he throws maybe the most beautiful ball in college football, makes great decisions. His teammate Ken Onsidin says he's the most calm and poised quarterback he's ever seen. He just doesn't get rattled. Now, of course, Penn State's going to throw everything at him.
The
Jim
kitchen
Knowles,
sink.
exactly. Jim Knowles is going to blitz. When Ohio State beat Oregon in the Rose Bowl, Knowles was a defensive coordinator at
Right. Right.
Ohio
He was
State.
last year.
That team, oh God, and that team had 8 sacks in that Rose Bowl game. So Knowles is going to attack Will Stein's offense, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. He's going to attack Will Stein's offense much in the same way that he did when he was with the Buckeyes. He's going to throw a lot of blitzes at him, a lot of pressure, a lot of stunts, and try and rattle Dante Moore in his first true big time road game with 108,000 fans in the stands, the
The whiteout.
whiteout.
The whiteout. Yeah.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
noise. So Moore's going to be tested in a way he hasn't yet, because in those first 4 games, he had all the time in the world to throw. He could survey the field, and he was comfortable. This time, they're going to try and make him uncomfortable, and how he responds to that is sort of the last step in his development.
It is kind of interesting the way you're talking, because I think I think James Franklin is like has every monkey on his back, probably the whole state of Pennsylvania, because he's never really done it. Now they spent money, and I heard that's all I've been reading. The money they spent on this program, that he has to win it. I mean, so this is a must win for him. Whereas now is Penn State favorite is I didn't even look at the point spread, which is, do you know what the spread is tomorrow? What's the spread? I'm not a
Three and a
gambler, but I just saw.
half.
Oh,
I don't bet on college football. I don't want to bet on anything that a ball that has pointy ends. But for people who like to, Penn State's favored by 3.5. They're at home in a great atmosphere. So, but you're right, JD. All the pressure is on Penn
all of
State.
it.
They Oh yeah, there's a lot of expectation, about whether Franklin can win the big one. He's got, a disastrous record in top 10 matchups.
Oh,
But,
yeah,
you-
right.
but I think he's a good coach, And
Eh,
as
I,
you
I,
said, they,
I
as you
feel,
said, they've
yeah,
yeah. Well, they've had a solid program for many years. Since he's
but
been
not
there, they've won
right, right,
one
right.
Big Ten title. But they win 10 and 11 games. They're ranked in the top 10. But Penn State fans probably want. I'm sure they want the Nittany Lions to take it to the next level, especially with this team that has
Right.
a tremendous nucleus of senior leadership, experienced players. They went out and got Amari Campbell, a linebacker from North Carolina, for the defense. They added Trevor Pena, Javante Ross, and Kyron Hudson at wide receiver. So theoretically, Drew Aller, the quarterback, has all the tools now. He's got
He
a full
does.
complement of weapons and an offensive line with four returning starters, including guard Vega Ione and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And Dawkins, Nick is the center, who is Daryl Dawkins'
Wait,
son.
Daryl Dawkins'
The,
son
the late,
is the center for Penn
yeah,
State.
yes, the late Daryl Dawkins, the
Wow.
great NBA
Chocolate
center.
Thunder.
His son,
Chocolate Thunder.
Nick Dawkins, is an All-America candidate at center. Really terrific player.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow. It's funny. I try to
Yeah,
I watch everything, but I don't. And I was thinking, I was looking more at your team this time around because that's the thing. I feel like all the pressure's on them. You're going in, and I mean, that's why I feel like Makai Hughes. It's like almost like they're put him in bubble wrap until tomorrow and let him out of the bubble wrap.
I kind of wonder about that. I mean, nothing's been said. Dan Lanning doesn't talk about injuries. He doesn't talk about the depth chart. He'll shut down questions about that really quick. But Hughes has a lot of talent. You just kind of wonder if maybe they've sort of like slow played it, with an eye toward this game. I haven't read that anywhere. I haven't gotten anything from any kind of source. It's just, you look at the guy's ability and maybe, he's a bigger factor in this game. Whether he is or not, the Ducks have a lot of weapons.
A
Speed,
lot of
explosiveness, variety. It's a really great offense, and it's one of those classic confrontations because Penn State has a really good defense. They're number 3 in the country in scoring defense at 5.7 points a game. Already this year, they have 9 sacks and 26 tackles. So it's a heavyweight fight between two teams that can punch.
So you and also I did see that you have how do you say DJ, the quarterback who played out west? His brother plays for Oregon. Iagale, I
Okay.
yeah.
Uiagalele.
Yeah.
Uiagalele. All right. And yes, DJ, who's now I think he's on the practice squad with the San Diego Chargers.
I think you're
His
correct.
brother, his brother Mateo, is Oregon's best defensive end / edge rusher. Got 3 sacks already this year. Led the Big Ten in the regular season last year with 10.5 sacks. He's 6'5", 275, an NFL prospect who could go in the first round. He's quick. He's a great technician. He's a warrior. And the interesting thing about him is that in the off season, he's a hip hop music producer. He's got a studio in his room,
He
and he's
does?
been mixing. Yes, he's
Wow.
been mixing as a record producer since he was like a sophomore in high school. His hip hop nickname is Young Concrete, which totally fits for a pass
Six
rushing
five two
defensive
seventy.
end.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So he's
Wow.
a lot of fun to watch and incredibly tough. And to slow down this Penn State offense with that great running game with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, they need Uiagalele to have a big game. I mean, he's got to come through like a future NFL first round draft pick and beat those Penn State tackles to the quarterback, make Drew Aller uncomfortable.
Because I'm looking at the schedule. Okay, that's another thing. Why is Oregon State called the platypus? Why is it for the platypus trophy? Oh,
You know,
Beaver and do you know what? I heard what's his name talk about it, McAfee. I
yeah.
wanted to ask if I never heard of the platypus trophy in my life.
Well, frankly, neither have we. I mean, the platypus trophy is something that writers haul out every 5 or 10 years and make a big deal at. In truth, some guy designed it back in the 1950s. It was stuffed in a closet at the old Mac Court gym. Um, for about 20 years and nobody paid it any attention. It's never been the focus of the game. It's never been presented, or held aloft after a big win. Out here, historically, it's always traditional been called the Civil War. And it
Right. That's
it,
what I
it
always remember it as.
yeah, it isn't really connected to the American Civil War. Eh, it's not so much that. It's just the idea of two schools that are 43 miles apart, down one highway, um, playing, every year for the state pride and the right to win and the right to live in the state is one way it's been put. And that's the way it was known for probably 60, 70 years. And somebody got the idea about 4 or 5 years ago that was offensive or insensitive. And so they said, we'll come up with another name. So they tried to
Oh wow.
resurrect. Yeah, they tried to resurrect the platypus trophy, and nobody cares. I mean, it's
Right.
it's it's ugly. It has no real juice to it.
Right.
So
That's a
every
good one.
once in a while,
Juice.
yeah,
I like that.
every once in a while, some writer from ESPN or some columnist will get a hold of the platypus trophy and try to make it into a thing. But the Duck fans or Beaver fans, it's never been a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you can't even say it. Platypus. It's like it doesn't flow from your mouth. It's like,
Never.
okay, I got marbles on my mouth. It doesn't. The Civil War. I understand we become we can't use certain words anymore, but the Civil War is a Civil War. It's within the state. It makes sense, and people have sides. People take sides. I would now. So you're an hour and 45 if your wife drives to Eugene. How far are you away from Corvallis? Is that a
Uh,
ride?
a- about the same, about an hour, maybe an hour 35, because you've got to leave the freeway and go 15 miles or so west through Albany to Corvallis, across
Okay.
the, the Willamette River. Um, Kind of bisects the western third of Oregon. But it's really funny how it does it, because if you drive, the back roads and state highways in Oregon, you'll cross the Willamette River about 10 times.
Oh,
It
really?
winds, oh
Oh,
yeah,
it's
it winds around. It goes through Eugene, where the University of Oregon is, and there's this beautiful river walk you can take to the stadium. If you're ever
oh
out, JD
oh, I'm
will
coming. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I want to meet you because Michigan, my girlfriend, we talked about places and I said, and I have a friend Brandon who didn't even go there. He's a huge Oregon fan, and I'm like, we got to go to a game in Eugene. Have to go to a game.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And when you do, we got to have some Tracktown pizza and take the river walk to the stadium, because you go over this pedestrian bridge, cross the river, through this path through the woods, and out pops Autzen Stadium. It's just a beautiful setting, and so very Oregon.
Yes.
So
So very.
that's Yeah, that's a fun way to experience. In this state, it's often said that, JD, either you're a beaver or a duck. Everybody has to choose. It's a little bit like Auburn and Alabama down in Alabama. Even people who didn't go to either school,
Right. You got to choose.
yes, you either wear green or you wear orange.
So I went to grad school at UNC, and of course, I never liked Duke. So it just everything kind of worked out. Yeah, like you didn't have to. Yeah, you can't like yeah. It's either UNC or Duke. But I love that about it. Let me ask you a question. You've lived in Oregon your whole life, correct?
Pretty much. I spent a couple of years in California, but didn't really like it. It didn't take for me. It was too expensive and too crowded. I love it here because JD, we're basically an hour from the beach, an hour from the mountains, an hour and a half from the desert. There's incredible variety and beauty in our state, and so much of it is open land, and
Right.
and you can experience anything here. Um, you know, Portland is a pretty it's a city, it's a big city, but once you get outside of Portland, you're pretty much in the country.
I okay, so that's what it's more like, yeah. So people very active outdoor because my girlfriend's brother lives in Boulder, Colorado, and I kind of think Boulder is kind of got that same kind of vibe where it's you got the
Yeah,
mountains everywhere, you got a little town, but then you go and you're out. Yeah.
yeah. I
But
love living in a place like
you
that.
do?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you because I remember a movie with the Prefontaine movie, which
Right.
they made two of them, or one of them was. And did you ever get to see him run back in the day?
Yes. I mean, I never saw him live, but
Okay,
Steve Prefontaine was an icon. I mean, his death was an incredible tragedy, but more than anything, he personified the spirit of Oregon athletics. The whole he was Nike's first signature athlete, and he ran from the front. He ran with
right
incredible
from the
competitiveness and
front. Like yeah, like I have to lead. Like that's not normal. Like I had to get to the front, and then I make the pace. And he almost
yeah,
he kind of tired out in that Olympics. The next Olympics, he would have made his mark. He like learned a lesson that time, but that's the way he ran. Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
it was a great shame he died because he certainly would have been the favorite in the Olympics in 1976.
Yeah. In
But
in in
yeah,
uh in
he's a true
Montreal. Yeah.
story.
Wow. Yeah. So I looked at the schedule too for you guys. So you play Penn State away, but then you get Indiana at home, and Indiana has scored the most. I talked about it on my show the other day. 520 points since the beginning of last season. Their most points in college football. They put up 63 in Illinois. I know people thought they shouldn't have been in the college football playoff, and they got that guy Kurt Signetti as a head coach. You know, that's an interesting game for me. So you got a test this week, and then you get Indiana at home next week. Oh no, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'm sorry. And then that's going to be interesting. After a bye. So
Yeah, JD, it's gotten way too interesting because I think it got everybody's attention when Indiana beat Illinois 63-10. I mean,
blow.
uh, they
Yeah.
are they're legit. They've got, as you said, they've got an explosive offense. Fernando Mendoza has come in and taken over from Curtis Rourke, and I think he's better. He's perfectly suited for that RPO offense they like to run. He distributes the ball. He's accurate. He's tough. He's very loyal to his guys, and yeah, at the beginning of the season or in the summer, you look at that and said, well, Indiana's a pretty good team. I think we can beat them in Autzen Stadium. Well, it doesn't feel necessarily like that now. You have to play a good game to beat that Hoosier squad. I think the entire upper half of the Big Ten is incredibly balanced and competitive. Washington's a better team than they were a year ago. USC is. Illinois
USC
seems to.
uh,
Illinois
was
seems.
right.
I'm
I didn't even
sorry.
cut you off.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, no. I didn't mean you're going. You're going. No, no. I. So who do you consider the upper? You consider Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. Who am I
Penn
missing?
State,
Yeah, Penn
Michigan,
State.
yeah,
Michigan.
Washington,
Right. Uh, who else do you like? Who do you think's better this year? Wisconsin's not good this year. Wisconsin's bad.
no, no.
Iowa, no.
Well,
But
Iowa's found a little something with Mark Gronowski at quarterback. I mean, he's starting to get a
yes,
little more comfortable. But even JD, even a team like Rutgers, now they're not a great team, but that quarterback, Kelly Manis, that guy can throw. I mean, he
eh,
can put up 300 yards on anybody. that
And they have that
that
wide receiver too. That's is it Holmes? I'm thinking about. I'm trying to think of the guy. I watched the game against Iowa, and every time they needed a first down, they went to this one kid, and he was catching everything. But I don't. I see his face. I don't see. And
yeah,
right.
I'm with you. I think it was his name was Stone, but that's off the top
Yes,
of my
Stone. No, no,
head.
no. You're right. You're right. No, no, it's Stone. You're right. It is
Yeah,
Stone. It is Stone. I
but
was wrong.
they can really throw the football. And anytime you face a guy like that, and Oregon's got to travel there, a 3,000 mile trip.
Right.
That guy's capable of getting a hot hand and making you uncomfortable. Later on in the season, they will play Iowa on a Saturday night at Kinnick Stadium, and then they've got to turn around in 6 days and host Minnesota on a Friday night.
Which is yeah.
Minnesota's
That
a very solid team, with a physical defense and a coach who's a great motivator. That's not a comfortable situation. That's a very tough turnaround, particularly because the Gophers will be coming off a bye. So, the Big Ten schedule and playing a conference that stretches across the country presents some unique challenges. I I think in future years it'll be much harder to go 11-1 or 10-2 in this conference. It's getting more and more like the NFL, where more of the teams have talent and there's more balance, and anybody can beat you, particularly at their place.
right. I agree. Like SEC is going in from 8 to 9 conference games, and I just think they beat the crap out of each other every week. So it doesn't matter if you're 15 one week and you. I mean, it just week to week. I mean, so I'm going. My friend Rhonda lives in Oklahoma, so I'm going out there October 20, the 3rd. The 5th, we're going to see him play Ole Miss, and by then Ole Miss could have two losses. And Oklahoma lost John Mateer for a couple weeks, which right now is not the best time to be losing your quarterback. And so it's interesting. All these like that's the thing too. I was now is Achilles Smith Jr. That's his son, right? That's Achilles Smith. Is he on the? But he's not on the roster, is he? I looked him up and he didn't get any playing time.
He hasn't had any playing time yet. He's very promising young quarterback. He's
Okay.
intelligent. He's 6'6", very
Wow.
athletic, throws the ball
Six.
well. But I think Achille and his father, who's a terrific guy, by the way, um, they have a very sound plan for him. They know he's here to be developed. He is not going to beat out Dante Moore as a freshman, but he's here to learn the system, absorb things, work hard in practice. He's an honor roll student in high school. He's smart, he's athletic. He scored 3 touchdowns to win the state championship in California, which is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's
So
not. No, no.
so very promising. He's got good mobility and a good passing arm. But he's a quarterback of the future, a solid 4-star kid. And Will Stein, their offensive coordinator, does a great job of developing quarterbacks. Oregon has one of the soundest quarterback rooms in the country.
So that's what. Did you ever get to talk to Achilles Smith for the site or anything? Did you ever talk to him about after his pro career and everything? Like that's another thing I want. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I mean, if you talked about that, because if any guy knows about the don'ts to do, it would be him getting to the pros, going to a franchise. He never got a shot. I mean, he really went to a terrible franchise. It didn't work out, and then he was out of the league. So I was always kind of curious about. That's the kind of guy I wanted to talk to and be like, what advice do you give people? What advice didn't you have back then? And that always fascinated me, Dale.
Well, I think he's done a great job of tutoring his son and applying some of those lessons. I
Right.
mean, uh, um, Achilles Smith Jr. has a really solid understanding of what it takes to grow as a quarterback, and without being heavy-handed or being a stage father, Senior has, given him some balance and some lessons and a foundation, and now is allowing him to grow into his own man. I've been blessed. He's very gracious. I've been blessed to have one or two conversations with Senior, and he's a good guy, and he will he will immediately admit that his pro experience, he didn't lack he lacked maturity at the time. He was a little rash. He wasn't placed in the best situation, on a
No,
team that didn't have
no.
a lot of weapons. And he washed out pretty quickly. But he takes a healthy amount of responsibility for what he learned in that situation, and he's gone on to have a good life and a good career. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's an interesting guy, and his son will only profit from what he went through.
So Dante Moore he's a true soph. What is he? A junior?
Red shirt sophomore. He
So
started as a
okay,
he started
okay,
he started 5 games at UCLA as a true freshman. Transferred to Oregon and sat out a year behind Dylan Gabriel to
oh, he
just
didn't play.
I
So he
he
wasn't the backup. He did
well
play. He did.
yeah, he appeared in 5 games, mop up duty, a snap here or there, but he was mostly there to serve an apprenticeship and reset as a quarterback.
Okay. Now, because I looked up so Austin Novosad is has gotten some playing time, right? He's gotten a little playing time with the team this year, right? I mean, yeah, he's played some quarterback this year.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry, but is it Luke Moga? That's the guy who seems like he's the backup, correct? Or am I
Well,
wrong? Or Brock Thomas? It seems like you have four guys that are taking snaps. I mean,
four guys
really, Dante.
Four guys have taken snaps. Dante's definitely the man. He's head and shoulders above most of the quarterbacks in the country. But Austin Novosad from Dripping Springs, Texas, is a redshirt sophomore, has some passing talent. He'll start somewhere eventually. He threw for close to 9,000 yards in high school. He's a four-star kid. The Ducks snatched him from Baylor on National Signing Day the year Stein came over to become offensive coordinator.
Okay.
And and they have a lot of confidence again. Another bright kid. He was dinged up a little bit and missed 2 games. So he's on his way back. Moga, the third guy, is from the Phoenix Scottsdale area, and he's got a lot of moxie. He was a 10-5 sprinter in high school. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
lost the state championship in the 100 meters by an eyelash. And you can already see that he's got a couple of runs over 25 yards in mop up duty late in games. So, very hard worker, has done nothing but apply himself and accept his role and grow. And whether he stays at Oregon or decides to move on and try and start somewhere in the transfer portal, I think he'll be a real success both as a quarterback and in life because he has a lot of drive, and he's never looked at himself as a bench warmer. He's always competing, and the
Yeah.
Oregon fans love that about him. Brock Thomas,
100%. Yeah.
yes, Brock Thomas is a
Oh,
local kid, a former
oh,
walk-on.
wow.
Nobody walks on now. Everybody gets a scholarship. But, he's a solid kid, and he's come in and run the team just fine late in games. So they have a lot of confidence in their room. The guys really support each other, and they each have a well-defined role. While they're all competing, and trying to push the next guy, there's a really healthy balance in that room, and Oregon, I think, has more depth at quarterback than a lot of teams because the transfer portal,
Oh.
everybody needs to start, they all leave.
What do you think about the whole what do you think about NIL and transfer portal? Did you think I mean it was guys were always getting paid in my opinion. I always felt. I mean, I've heard stories Marcus Allen at USC. I knew near my father there was a guy who said every week Marcus came to Beverly Hills and got an envelope, went to a house, got an envelope and left. So I feel guys now it's out in the open What do you feel about all that? The transfer, and now they're going to cut the transfer portal. I heard to once a year, which I'm like, thank God. Just and we think they should do it after the season ends, after the last national championship game. Have a portal for like those 2 weeks, and that's it. I
Yeah,
feel like
there needs to be one window, and it looks like they're moving in that direction. And it needs to have a little sounder regulation and oversight. But as you said, JD, the transfer portal, NIL, revenue sharing, they're just the reality. I mean, players were always being paid. I mean, Hugh McElhenney in the 1950s, uh, he was a running back at Washington. When he went to the 49ers, the joke was he was going to have to take a cut in pay. You know, Red Grange in the 1920s had a job delivering ice in the summer. Well, he was being paid to be a football player. He delivered a few blocks of ice, I'm sure. But, there were always arrangements. There's never
right,
been a
right.
time when I remember once there was an Alabama quarterback. I think it was AJ McCarron, and ESPN did one of those profiles at his house. Well, the thing was, it was his house. He was at Alabama, right? He was having the offensive line over for a barbecue, and the dude had a 3-bedroom house. You know, so there's never been a time that players haven't gotten paid. I will say this, they all work at this incredibly hard, year round,
Yes,
and
yes.
they're the ones who generate all this money. So they deserve to get paid, and the NCAA is only getting what they had coming to them in terms of having to pay them. Now that it's happened, college football needs stronger leadership. It needs somebody at the top to look out for the good of the game, someone who understands these things, someone who can enforce some sensible rules and regulations so it's not just a free for all, unlimited free agency with no guardrails.
But that's what I think every year. Dale is like Dan Lanning every year has to re-recruit players. Like there's guys who are like you said that Moga has that he wants to be a starter, but there's other guys like, well, I'm not getting enough playing time. And I know they had to pay Hughes money. Hughes didn't come to Oregon on like a freebie. I mean, they're paying him. They paid him to come, so there has to be a plan with him. I mean, or else, yeah. And Lanning. I mean, that it's stressful enough. I got to coach every week, but now I got to think about I'm going out recruiting, and I got to re-recruit guys I've already recruited because they're going to be going somewhere. They might get poached somewhere else. It's a lot on these guys.
It is. Um, but at the same time, JD, it's an opportunity because programs that are well run, programs with
Right.
a great culture, you know, have a better organization for not only recruiting guys and evaluating guys and getting the right players into their program, they do a better job of retaining them. And Oregon is in a place where Lanning's created a great culture. They have, you know, tremendous evaluation. In the last 3 years, they've been in the top 10 in both recruiting and transfer portal recruiting each year. They brought in some really pivotal guys. I mean, Bucky Irving, Bo
Right.
Nix, Dylan
Right.
Gabriel. This
Right.
year's team, Malik Benson has emerged as a real weapon at wide receiver, 10-4 sprinter. So they have built their team with a really sound, intelligent, thorough, cohesive plan. And that's what you have to do to succeed in this area. That's what Mike Gundy maybe failed to do at Oklahoma State. Maybe he didn't have enough resources, but
He did.
you
Yeah.
really have to have now the teams that are doing the best have a general manager and
Yes.
they have a scouting staff and they're
Right.
they're assessing their needs year round. And when the transfer portal comes, whenever it is, however long it lasts, they're the ones that are prepared. And they're the ones that get the right guys into their program. And Penn State's done a good job of that this year with the players they acquired. Amari
Right.
Campbell, the linebacker in particular, huge asset for that team.
because you brought up a great point because you have the Phil Knight money and kids like the Bells. They like those uniforms. They can say whatever they want, but having all the space. I heard the cleats tomorrow night are gonna glow in the dark, so the cleats will light up. That's what I heard for the game tomorrow. You would never know what the uniform organ's gonna. You got Phil Knight money, and that locker room is. It's like it's nicer than people's houses. I mean, the bells and whistles. He's got everything. And right, you would GM. That's a good point you put up. You would GM that you trust. Dan Lanning doesn't have to worry about that stuff. He's a guy that he can focus on coaching and have that guy deal with the other stuff. Like, hey, my players and all that stuff. I don't know when these guys like you're working your wake up 4 o'clock in the morning. I think. What do you think? Dan Lanning sleeps 4 hours a night if he's lucky. If he does, I mean, he's constantly going. I would think he's constantly going.
He's often said, he's got 3 young boys and a beautiful wife. And he's often said that as a father and a husband and a football coach, you can't be balanced, but you can be intentional. So he does a real good job of being intentional about the time he spends with his family and his sons. But yes, absolutely. And another thing that every good coach has to have in this era, which he definitely has, is the ability to delegate, to find
Right.
people, really good people that you trust, to put them in charge and trust them. And he does that. And it's just a really well run organization.
See, that's why you're the writer. I was thinking of the word. I said it in 85 words, and you just said delegate, and there it is. You just all my talking, blah, 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 and he goes delegate, and exactly, and trust a delegate that you can trust these people to delegate to. Yeah, listen, and that's what I kind of. You were exactly what I thought it was going to be when I had you on. I just love the way we started. I followed you on X or Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it anymore, and I was like, you are just what you see is what you get in a great way, and I mean that as a compliment. With all this, I'm like, you know what? And the way you're saying about the game tomorrow, it's not do or die. It's like it's one game. There's other games we played. The goal. I mean, I guess the goal is to make the college football playoff, which I feel should. I mean, unless, yeah, I mean that's the goal. I see a couple games bumps, but not many. Yeah, and I think there's, like you said, a lot of pressure on Penn State tomorrow. A lot of. How do you think it's going to go? How you what? I don't like doing. I do predictions sometimes, and I feel like it's like, Do you think it's going to be a high scoring game, like a 28-24 game, or lower? Or I mean, they're scoring 51 a game, Oregon. I mean, you guys are scoring a lot of points.
Yeah, they are. They're 50.8 points a game, something like fourth in the country. But this is a really interesting one, JD, because each team I think has a different script for the way they want the game to go. Penn State wants to play this game, I think, a little bit like the old Stanford teams used to play Oregon, where they try to put the game in a phone booth, make it physical, limit
Okay,
the possessions,
right.
control the clock with that great running game, Allen and Singleton. So their script for the game is to, frustrate Oregon, get them off the field, hold the ball, limit it to maybe 8 possessions in the game. Whereas Oregon wants to open it up. Oregon wants to be explosive. Oregon wants to make some big plays. To do that, they've got to get some stops on defense and sort of minimize or mitigate Penn State's advantage or perceived advantage on the trenches. And on offense, they've got to protect Dante Moore well enough that he can operate. And so a lot depends on how the start goes. A lot depends on who dictates the flow of the game, and then big plays and turnovers. I expect it's going to be very close and very tough. And I think that this will be a game where the team that's the most resilient, or the team that can handle a big game atmosphere and adjust to the fact that this is no longer a situation where they can just have their way and dominate.
Right.
This is going to be a game where the teams trade body blows and both teams make plays. And the team that hangs in there when things aren't going their way, the quarterback who stays poised when he makes a mistake, that's the team that's going to win this thing. Yeah. If you held a I know I hate this phrase, but if
Yeah,
you
I
held
know.
a gun
Yeah,
to
held
my
the
head
gun to right.
right, and made me make a prediction, I'd predict 27-24 Penn State. They're playing at home. They've got that whiteout atmosphere. They're a terrific team. And I think maybe they have a little bit of an edge on the offensive and defensive lines. But we'll see.
Okay,
You know,
so you
Oregon could yeah. Oregon can write a different script if they get a good start and protect the quarterback.
interesting. Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you because I felt last year in against Ohio State they got behind and I never thought of Oregon as a come from behind team like that. Like once you got a 14-point lead, then things didn't. They kind of went away from the game plan where maybe, and you learned something from that. You learned something from games like that. You learn what works and what doesn't work. So I'm curious if the atmosphere that so suddenly that behind like 14-0 after a quarter. I think you stay with the game plan. That's what got you here, and you know that's what you have to do. I just because the crowd could take over, and then it's a whole. Then it's I always like to use Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. Then it turns to that, and you're just like, ugh. So yeah.
I used an analogy on another show I did where there's a scene in The Replacements where
Oh, love that
uh,
movie. Love that
where
movie.
Gene Hackman is talking to the team, and he asks them, "What are your fears? What do you fear the most?"
Spiders.
And Keanu Reeves, who plays the quarterback, said, "Quicksand." That's the thing that Oregon would have to fear the most is for that atmosphere to take over. And you get in the situation where things just aren't going right. There's a cascade of errors. You begin to lose some of your fluidity and composure, and you fall apart. And a great iconic atmosphere like the whiteout sometimes does that to teams. It doesn't help either that Penn State has this incredibly aggressive and physical defense, but Oregon's got to absorb whatever shots come along. They've got to be resilient. They've got to avoid the quicksand by staying poised, as you said, staying within their game, sticking to the game plan, and trusting themselves. Even if they make an error or two, they've got to trust themselves. And this is a testing atmosphere, about as testing as college football can be. And we don't yet know how this young team will respond to that environment. I think they'll play very well, but it's gotten the better of a lot of teams over the years. JD, did we freeze here? What's going on?
There we are.
Well, see.
Well, hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Hold on. Sorry about this, Dale.
Dale,
I
I don't know what's going on, and I saved it. I saved it.
It's
It's
not.
not. It's not.
It's nothing
Nothing you did. It's all good.
Well, I'm really
Hold on a
as
sec.
it usually is.
It's all me.
It's all me.
Wait, I hear. Hold on. Oh, I think we're back. Yep. We are back.
All right. Are we live?
All right. So you were saying you said the crowd was so
Well,
engrossed.
what just happened with us is a great example. Sometimes in life, in any field of endeavor, no matter how prepared you are, how passionate you are, how much talent you have, or how much talent you don't have, you're going to face a situation where things go wrong, where there are glitches, where it blows up. And the fact that that happens is okay. How you react to it, that's everything. The Ducks are going to face the same situation in the whiteout in Beaver Stadium. There are going to be times where Penn State is just in command, where they break a big play or they make a big sack or you have a breakdown, a fumble, a penalty, an interception. And how you react to that is what makes the difference. That's what defines you as an athlete, as a person, as a writer, as a radio host. How you react to the glitches, the problems, the unexpected. And Oregon and Penn State will both face that this Saturday. That's what makes it a great game.
Right, and it's you're talking about the. I don't know what the. All right, that's all right. This weekend, that's a thing.
Yeah. You got two teams with a lot of talent, and one of them is going to have a great day. Hopefully, they both will. We'll see one of those epic matches. But how you respond to it, how you prepare mentally, is everything.
Right. Exactly.
So,
So, tell me. I wanted it. Your company.
your company.
It's all Autzen Zoo. Is that
Autzen Zoo? Is that?
The website is autzenzoo.com. People can find me on X at Autzen Zoo _Bliss, or they can interact with me on the Autzen Zoo Facebook page, which you can just search Autzen Zoo.
okay?
Part of my job, the way I perceive it, is I try to answer every comment, interact with anyone who interacts with the website or the Facebook page. The one thing that I really don't tolerate are the the trolls, the people who come in and just want to be negative and nasty.
Yep.
I don't have any time for that. I'm a better blocker than Iapani Lalaulu. I will just cut them off at the knees.
Good. Now, I have a question for you. I do trivia at the end of every show. Are you up for it?
I used to be good at trivia, but I'll do my best.
Okay. Let me see. I saved it for you. Do you know the largest margin of victory ever in a game for Oregon football?
Oh man, I don't know. I know they beat Oregon State one time, 69-10. But I don't know if that's the largest. Seems like one time, way back in the dawn of football, they beat some school like Willamette or some what is now a Division III school by some ridiculous score, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
Dale, you were onto
Dale,
something.
you were onto something.
Okay.
115 to nothing
15 to nothing
Oh man.
over the
over the
University of Puget Sound
Sound
in
Right.
1910.
in 1910.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
just slightly before my time, but not too much.
I have two more I was going to ask you. Let me see.
Let me see.
Okay.
Most rushing yards in one game
Most rushing yards in one game
for Oregon Ducks running back.
for Oregon Ducks running back.
Okay, that's Ontario Smith against Washington State, and it was just a ridiculous amount of yards. Then LaMichael James had a big game against Stanford one time where he ran for about 238. So, okay, which one is it?
LaMichael James,
LaMichael James,
281
281
versus Utah
versus Utah
in 2011.
in 2011.
Oh man, see, I don't remember that one. I remember when he rushed for 3 touchdowns against Stanford. LaMichael James was a great back. He was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh,
Incredibly explosive, and for a smaller guy, he was a tough runner. An all-time favorite for the fans at Oregon. Had an incredible number of great games.
I'll give you one
I'll
more.
give you one.
Most passing yards in a single game.
Most passing yards in a single game.
Ooh, Danny O'Neill went off in the Rose Bowl in 1995 at the end of the 1994 season, and it seems to me that he passed for 511 yards. I think that's close. What's the answer?
585.
585.
Marcus Mariota
Marcus Mariota
versus Washington
versus
State
Washington State
2014.
2014.
2014.
Man, greatest of all time.
2014.
I'm sorry, Marcus. He's starting this weekend against the Atlanta Falcons. Jaden Daniels is out for another week. But oh yeah, he probably one of the most beloved figures in American history. Just, Jerry Allen once said he was a Hall of Fame player, but also a Hall of Fame person, and that's really too. Very, very gracious. Very, very authentic. Just Oregon fans will always love Marcus Mariota.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for coming on.
JD, I had a great time. Of all the podcasts and things I've done, this is one of my favorites because we just talked. We just talked sports. You're just a really authentic and fun guy, and anytime I'd love to come back.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Maybe a couple weeks after the next couple games.
Yeah, after Penn State and Indiana, we'll have a lot to talk about, win or lose.
Let's do that.
And if you here, be
sure.
My wife and I would love to host you and get a chance.
Dale, you are a professional and a treasure.
Treasure.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and enjoy the game, man.
Go Ducks.
Go Ducks.
Go Ducks.
Go Ducks.
Go Ducks.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Okay, take care.
Okay, take care.